would like to introduce, my name is Saman, President of Agile Network, and I'm expressing my gratitude towards you for coming here. So I would like to welcome Jack here, and I wanted to tell about Jack is he's having 25 years of experience consulting, technology, software, and the good thing is he's a combination of leadership and technology, and makes several technology impact, software impacts, and also value add he has added for many divisions. So let's give a round of applause and welcome Jack.
Thank you. AI will take your job. This is what we hear sometimes, right? This is what people fear. This is what is going on in almost everybody's mind in some way or another. Another one is AI will push us toward mediocrity. Build the common denominator. It's trained on all this giant information and it seeks the center and will stifle our creativity. Will force us into that stagnation that we're all afraid of. Well, I don't believe that's necessarily true. I think that what we're looking at is a lot of fear in this place. It's our job as leaders and as agilists to help the people find their way in this future. If you don't mind, I'm going to reset this. Me, who am I? Well, I do have 25 plus years of getting paid to write software, which I'm incredibly grateful for. I am the father of 2 Aggies. I got 2 boys in college. I will set up my GoFundMe later. I am an avid tinkerer. My wife hates how many projects are halfway done across my house. But I am an introvert who got adopted / kidnapped / drug along through the joy of life by an extrovert, and I'm extremely grateful for her. The reason I mention it also when I speak, I am an introvert. I have practiced this discussion a million times in my head, and this is the first time I'm going to try to put it into real words. So the slides are not important. I don't care about the slides, the outline, the things I put together on here. I care about if it's going to be a valuable conversation, valuable information for the people in this room. So if you have a question, you have a comment or a thought, stop me. It's okay. We can divert as long as it's something that we believe will take us to a better place. So why are we here? The world's been changing a lot over the past several years, right? The introduction of ChatGPT was a fire that took on a lot of people. And it's shocking to see how popular and how much it is out there and in the world. The South Park recently I saw, right, where he was sitting next to his wife and, hey, ChatGPT, tell me. And treating that as a colleague, as a partner, as a therapist, as everything else. There's some reality to that out there, but there's also still a lot of fear when it comes to these. The reality is, AI tools are here to stay. That Pandora's box isn't going back. Now, we may have some great discussions about the ethical approaches to it. They're built on training that they may or may not have been allowed to be built upon. The energy parts of that too. Huge amounts of energy and environmental impact, etc. But I do think, like all of these, we're going to work to improve on those pieces now that the box is open and the world is not going to give this up. So we're going to have to deal with that fact here. So the real question that we are faced with now as leaders, as those people that help teams to grow and to achieve, is how do we make sure they're used well? How do we make sure they're used effectively here? And that's where I think this group, Agility, really helps us out. So much of the lessons I've learned as an Agile practitioner of software engineering, have been able to be applied to my use of these tools. Agile's built on principles, right? We all know most of those, right? Iteration, continuous improvement, team empowerment. Those principles are exactly what AI can reinforce if applied effectively. I'll give some examples of how I've seen that work well as we go forward here. But when we start to take those same lessons we've learned on how to coordinate, how to organize, how to build great things, and add in more effective tools, we're going to be able to build even greater. And that's what I truly believe out of this. Has anybody here been utilizing any sort of AI tools for themselves? Almost everybody, right? Anything, ChatGPT, Claude, right? Anybody have anything special or interesting that they like to use? Outside of those realms? Not that they aren't special or interesting, but.
Notebook LM.
Yeah, Notebook LM, heard of that. Perplexity, yeah.
That's a good
Interesting.
Mistral.
That's the great things. What about your development teams? Are any of your development teams utilizing AI coding tools?
Cursor.
Copilot and Cursor? Two of the top ones, definitely.
Yeah.
GitHub, Copilot, and Cursor. I personally, this is not about the tools. I may show you a little bit with the tool, etc., but frankly, I don't think the tools necessarily matter as much as how we apply them. And so I want to make sure that if I show something up here and you see Windsurf or you see Cursor or you see ChatGPT, because I used the heck out of ChatGPT, that's not the point. Now, every team, everybody's going to have ideas about their favorite tools. Claudia and I were just debating earlier about how we like to type code. I'm a Vim guy. That's right. He is not. I'm better than he is. But that's okay. It's not about the tool, because I know he accomplishes tremendous amounts more than I do, because he cares about his tools and he works with them now. So here's what I think a lot of people believe AI development looks like. Let's write a chatbot. It'll take all our reservations. Get rid of our whole customer service department. No, that's not really what it looks like. Or in standard development things, hey, I'll just fire and forget, vibe code my way through it all. I'll just tell it, hey, build me this cool thing, and then it'll go do it. And I can sip on my latte instead. Won't that be nice? Has anybody tried it?
I know there's a new job role called Vibe Coding Cleanup Specialist.
That is so.
Yeah.
That hurts. Yes. Yeah. I've tried it. It hasn't worked out great. But I've learned some lessons from trying it a couple of times too. We'll talk through a little bit of that, because what I think AI-enabled development really looks like is we need to focus on those repetitive low-value tasks. And if I have to write another EF model with getters and setters properly set up, I might have to pull my hair out. It's not fun anymore, guys. Or if I have to write more glue code between these couple of things, it's just not great. Those repetitive, boring tasks are perfect for this sort of work. And if we let those repetitive, boring tasks get accomplished faster through these tools, then we get to see the outcomes faster. We get a faster loop. It sounds a lot like the OODA loop that agility likes to describe. We get to that feedback and we can iterate more. And ultimately, we get to think more about the value and the outcomes that we're trying to provide for our customers. This is what really using AI well can help accomplish. But let's talk about some of those problems first. Over-reliance can lead to shallow understanding. If you vibe code the heck out of an application, you're not, sorry, I see cameras a lot. It's kind of freaking me out, guys. You vibe code the heck out of that application, you don't know much about that application. If you ask ChatGPT for all the information on how you're going to, how you should live your day, you're going to have a shallow understanding of the why you live that way, why you're doing those things. Also, over-reliance can lead to technical debt because of unchecked outputs. You tell it to quickly whip something up for you, and it may look great, and then you tell it to whip up another thing on top of that, and that looks pretty good. And sure enough, after 5 or 6 of them, and you try to whip up another feature on top of all of that, and it's lost. And because you did all that, you're lost too. And we can't forget about those potential security and IP risks and those other places too, right? So, using these tools does rely still heavily on us being the drivers of that value. We need to be in the pilot seat. They're the co-pilot. We're the driver. And what about for our teams too, right? If you got one guy using the tool and another guy not, things get messy faster. And if you do have that individual that's like, job's done. Wait, we said that thing would take 5 days. You did it in 20 minutes. It's like, yeah, I just told it what to do and it did it. Their skills may start to atrophy. So they're probably not paying a lot of attention. And then lastly, one of the things that I think we look at on the larger scale too is that mistaking the output for the value. We don't want to turn into, because we can be a feature factory, we don't want to turn into a feature factory. We want to care about the products we're producing for our customers. We want to make sure that we're not just generating a whole bunch of things, but we're generating the right things. We're doing the right thing at the right time. That sounds like a familiar quote too, doesn't it? So what are some of those keys to success? How do we start to make sure that our teams work well in this space? We should look at, be very clear, that we define our requirements and constraints with great clarity. We should also look at making sure that we are breaking down our work into clear and easily measurable achievements. And when necessary, we also lean harder on spike-based approaches, be willing to fail faster on smaller tasks. How does that align with any of what you guys practice in your current world, or in the world that you were practicing 5 years ago? Sounds about like what we should be doing anyway, right? Now, I want to be clear. Defining requirements and constraints clearly may feel a little awkward, but how much value does a great business analyst and a great product owner provide to your team when they work diligently to define what the outcomes are that we need? We still need to do that. I saw somebody talk about this as a unit of work problem. How do we break it up to a small enough unit of work that we can easily tell that we accomplished it well? That's what Agile teams have to do, guys, all the time. These tools aren't changing that. And doing these same things and leaning even harder into doing these things are going to make it even better. And for those pitfalls we talked about, we also need to continue to focus on those non-negotiables. The things that we have to have. We believe that automated tests will make regression better. That hasn't changed. It's non-negotiable. The only way we can make sure that we keep up with this is through making sure that we automate as much of the tests. We need continuous living documentation. Yes, working software before documentation is vital. That's why I say living documentation. You want to know the state of what we're at all times. This is what a great backlog does too. A great architectural implementation also does include deep decision records about why the trade-offs were made through time. This is still about doing the good things that we already know we should be doing. Using those CI/CD pipelines, absolutely vital. Making sure that our work always meets our standards, not negotiable for me. And lastly, probably the most important one, human review and critical thinking. Don't just let it drive. You're the pilot. It's the co-pilot. You need to always be looking, asking questions, thinking about the edge cases, thinking about the why. Not it. It doesn't do that. Let's look at how this might affect different roles in your teams. I started with my favorite because this is what I like to do. The technical lead, the architect. Their job is still going to be about setting quality guidelines, setting the guardrails for the team. Here's how we're approaching this technology. Here's the overall picture of how we can maintain this long term. Why we're choosing this technology stack versus that technology stack. How we're coordinating the technologies across various groups. They're also the ones that have to do those documentation of those technical decisions and the trade-offs in there. I just spent time this week on architectural decision records, one of my least favorite jobs, but it's one of the most important ones. Here's why we chose to do it this way. Here's what other options we considered when we chose doing it this way. Here's why we went down this route. The trade-offs we knew we were going to take. And I capture all of that as actual documentation, actual words, actual text that are fed into my projects for my team to look at later. So that later on, when a teammate comes and says, hey man, why are we doing this with wind forms? Oh my God, that's so old. We shouldn't be doing that. We should have built a UI thing. Like, yeah, I hear you. We talked about that. And here's why. Here's the decision we made back then. And for better or for worse, we at least thought about it, guys. And here's what we have to constrain ourselves with as we go forward.
But it's still a bad idea.
Well, it was made for a good reason. It really was. Now, what I'm advocating for as well is feeding all of this information into your repository and making sure that your teams can read it and their team's tools can utilize it too. So when they go in and start to accelerate their capabilities using Cursor, using Claude Code, using Windsurf, it can have that context too. That it doesn't go off the rails because you made your architect made a choice to use React in a weird way, or your architect made a choice that their API looks different than usual APIs do. If you just let the tools run with it, they're going to choose the common medium. This is where we keep ourselves out of the mediocrity and make sure that the choices are recognized and continue with. Your regular developers, your team members, they're probably a little nervous right now, guys. I fired up Claude Code the other day, and it created some amazing things. I'm like, well, I'm out. I guess I'm not needed anymore. I spent 25 years learning how to write code like that, and it looks good. We still need the human in the driver's seat, and we will. But they get to now start to immediately elevate their position. They get to elevate themselves to be the pair programmer working with a junior developer. They get to be the one thinking about the craftsmanship of the approach, applying their judgment to this, because the AI doesn't have the judgment side of it. They're like, oh, I saw you did all these things. That's great, but why didn't we do it this way? We should instead make sure we're simplifying this. You've gone too far. Or, in the other way, gosh, I think you misunderstood that calculation. We've got 5 different cost properties in our pricing engine here. You picked the wrong one. Somebody still needs to look at that. Somebody still needs to be doing that. And ultimately, these development teams, they get to elevate their position and be more creative. They get to learn more about or think more about how we're going to solve the technical problem rather than the elegance in which I wrote my code. Any thoughts, any questions? Now, the trick here is they will have to grow in how they approach this too. The most successful of them are going to work on clarifying their ideas and concepts. They're going to have to work on written communication skills. They're going to have to work on how they convey their intelligence to others. They are smart people. How do they show that? How do they convey that? How do they put their ideas into great words to craft this? That's one of the changes that I believe we're going to have to work toward. Any product owners in here?
Excuse me.
Product owners?
I might as well claim it now. Like my organization is shifting more agile. I'm actually a business analyst by heart, but I'm going to be a product person.
Excellent.
Why not?
Product owners can use that AI
Sure.
as to help refine the backlog. Right? They can help it. They can use it to explore new ideas, to talk through various options. But their job is going to be still dogmatically about driving the prioritization toward value. AI isn't going to solve the fact that you got 3 different customers wanting 3 different things, and you need somebody to find the common answer to those 3 different things that's going to solve their problems in a way they did not expect. That's not changing. You just have more tools in your tool belt that help you. Any QA engineers around? Whew, good. Oh, dang, you're right. Okay. QA engineers, in my mind, are going to be so much more important as this grows. They get to, first of all, utilize the AI to help generate some of those test cases and do the bare, happy path checks. It's pretty good at that. But like the rest of us, they also have to elevate their approach. They're going to be enabled, because all of that's pretty easy and able to be done, they get to collaborate earlier and more often. Now, I don't know, none of your teams, right? None of your teams have gotten into that issue where all the developers have finished their work day one, last day before the sprint ends, and the QA guy doesn't get to test anything until next sprint. And then all the bugs come in the sprint after that. And suddenly you don't get, no.
That never happens.
None of us.
Never happens.
None of us, I'm sure. But imagine, right, if your QA is involved earlier. If your QA is not just focused on the testing parts of this, but also helping with those, oh, hey, I see you're clarifying your ideas with your coding agent and you're starting to build this out. But did you think about this particular edge case? Because I was wondering what's going to happen if they don't do it in that order. What's going to happen? Do you think it's going to work anyway? Having a QA agent sit alongside the development team while they're developing has always been a tremendous value add. Now they get to focus on how to communicate that too. And they're going to have even more time to focus on the edge cases, to look for the exploratory things that aren't the happy path. Exercising that creativity in their own special, unique ways. I love my QA agent. Scrum Masters, coaches. This is still the same. Guide teams to inspect and adapt their practices. Constantly looking at what you're doing. Can we do it better? Can we do it better? What would make the outcome better next week? How can we get that working right? What got in our way this time? Oh, too much technical. oh, test failure. But their job's going to be equally important to this, as they help make sure we're all focused on this. But you also have a new thing. How do you give the opportunity to your team members to experiment in new ways? I guess that's not so new after all, is it? It's still what we should be doing, right? So I'm going to walk you guys through my quick, dirty, ugly experiment that I tried last weekend. Yeah, I decided last weekend, guys, I am living in a sci-fi future right now. Right now, I am living in that sci-fi future that I only dreamed of as a child. Hey, did I tell everybody I own a Tesla? They're going to take away my car if I don't tell everybody I own a Tesla, guys. And it's amazing. And it drives me to work. That's pretty awesome. That was a dream. I don't drive into work, it drives me to work. I do have to co-pilot. I do have to pay attention. And I do, I promise. But it drives me to work. And on my way to work, what do? I talk with ChatGPT. I sit there and talk about what I want to do that day. Like, oh man, I got this idea. I don't know how I'm going to do it though. Maybe you could help me refine my idea, help me figure out exactly what I want to accomplish this morning. You know, I was thinking about the challenge I'm having right now with my team on breaking up our work in a better way. And team's just struggling with it. I'm still struggling with it. I would love to build a quick tool that helps us out in some way. What do you think that could look like? And ChatGPT comes up with something and says, no, that's not right. I don't love that. But what about this? Well, that's a great idea, Jake. But still, talking with it all the way through my short commute to work, defining what I wanted to accomplish, figuring out what my constraints were, and well, this was to be an experiment. My first and foremost piece of value was I want to play with some of these tools. I want to build something with this kind of technology. I want to experiment and learn today. But here's what I also want. And I got it to work through all that with me. And then I came to my office and I said, okay, let's organize that as a specification sheet. Let's figure out how we're going to build this, as if I was giving this to a development team right now. And that's not going to work well, is it? Unless I do some work. Sorry. Oh, let's see if I can get this up on the screen. This is what it came up with for me. Not quite, but okay, you want to do a user story breakdown agent? Here's the things we talked about and how I would present those to your development tool. Team. Don't worry, the actual context is not super important. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh no, that's wrong. Delete this, rewrite that, fix this, fix that. Worked with it for another half an hour or so, coming up with what my specifications for success with this tool might look like. Look at all that. You know how long it would have taken me to write this all out? It would have taken me a long time. You don't know how long it took me to review, refine, and make sure it was great? Half an hour. Not too bad of a trade-off, really. Right? Error handling, minimal test plans. These were all things we talked about. This isn't things they came up with on its own. I just had a natural conversation with it on my way to work. So then, once I took that document and made sure that the specifications and the outcome it described were what I actually want, I said, okay, I'm going to put on my architect hat and my project planner hat and say, hey, let's generate an implementation plan. I want to divide this up into measurable phases of accomplishment. I want to be able to say, once you're done with phase 2, I will know exactly what to look for and exactly how I can see that I'm being successful in doing this. And I said, oh, okay, sure. And we went through the same thing before. It generated a 7-phase implementation plan. And I looked at it and said, nah, not quite. I think it would be better if we accomplished this before that, because that'll make sure that I can really see value at this point. I think you misunderstood what we should do in this phase, and what if we make sure that we include that as an acceptance criteria? And I ended up with a 7-phase thing with clear outcomes for each phase. I'll show you that one too real quick. Bring it back over so I can find it, sorry. And again, the actual text is not super important. No, that's the specifications. I'm going to have to do this backwards. Implementation plan. In its preview mode. Phase 1, we're going to build our foundation and core infrastructure. Here's what it should look like. Here's the tasks I think we'll need to accomplish. Here's what the core dependencies look like. Here's what phase 2 is going to be, etc. This is pretty technical, but it's still something that I will be able to measure, something I will be able to see. Did we accomplish it? Does this work? This is all built, again, off of a concept we're talking about these days in AI agents called spec-driven development. Right? Write your specs. Write out what you want. Refine what you want. Break it into small pieces, and then work on one piece at a time, building up more and more of the context and value. What do you think I did next? I told him to do phase 1. Right? I can't go through phase 1. And it did. And I had a project. And it didn't quite work. That's okay, because it was way better than if I had tried to start it from scratch myself. And so I started looking at it and working with it. And to put on my engineer hat now and said, no, okay, oh, I see, that specification was wrong. We don't want to use that. That's not going to help us. We should fix this. We should change that. Worked with it just like I would any team member on making it right. And then afterwards, clarified what the next step would be over and over and over again through all 7, 8, and 9, and 10 phases. Because I can't keep to a project budget. But that sounds like exactly what we do in Sprint, does it not? This is what we do. We work together. We refine, we clarify, we achieve a measurable incremental goal. And we talk about how we can do better next week. So I thought about it for a little bit. I'm not going to demonstrate it to you because, quite frankly, point number 2, be willing to fail fast. I looked at this. I spent half a day to a day on this of my weekend enjoying this. Before I realized I was tackling the wrong problem. I should tackle a different problem. But it was a fun experiment. And it taught me something. And I know next one that I do, I'm going to do it a little bit differently and I'm going to go better. But the usage of AI actually reinforced my Agile inherent practices. It made me do the things that I struggle with doing regularly on a team because the timescales are harder. I do struggle with breaking down tasks. I do struggle with what the retro is going to look like today versus next month versus the next sprint versus the next one. And ultimately, the more clear I was in what I want, the better my outcome was going to be. So this is the Agile Leadership Network. I want to take you guys back to that first quote I put up there. The quote from nobody, from John Doe, that Agile will take your job. Now, a lot of leaders have softened that. A lot of leaders, there are still those those leaders or the stories about firing whole dev teams and replacing them all with AI. And then now there's a lot of stories about that was a huge mistake. Right. But nowadays the leaders are tending to quote somebody, Richard Baldwin, he's an economist. He presented this, I think, in 2023 as part of his summit, that no, AI is not going to take your job. It's someone that uses AI that's going to take your job. I guess that's better. Is it better? It's a little better. It's not the way I like to motivate people, right? If you don't get off your butt, something's going wrong. But it's a better. But the best way I've seen this put for leaders to talk about it is AI is going to require you to adapt to your job using many skills that may not even be technical. This is where I think all of us should be focusing on enabling our teams to do that. How do we make sure that it is my job as a technical leader to enable my team to have the best outcomes they can. And if I am ignoring the fact that in this world, being able to communicate well, being able to work through and understand and break down a problem to the smallest parts possible is not important, if I'm not sharing the fact of how important I see those that are with my team, then I'm probably failing at doing serving them well. We should always be striving to improve our crafts. Now, there's still great value in understanding deep technical knowledge. That is not going away. But the current landscape gives us so many opportunities to also grow in these ways too. And by utilizing these tools well, we have the space to do it. So what do I think leaders should be doing with their teams? We should be upskilling in written communications, validations, and reviews. These are certain skill sets that are still trouble for some folks. Reviewing code isn't as easy. Providing good feedback on whether or not this is the right approach isn't always easy. But these days, it's going to become more valuable, I think. Recognize the value of critical thinking. Encourage it. Don't just do the task. Think about the task. Think about why the task. Think about what if instead of the task. That's where humans belong. That's what we are good at. Our job is to foster the safety around this too. It's okay. Use the tools. Learn the tools. Find ways to continuously improve, just like you've been finding ways to continuously improve all of your other skills. And we should all work to model discernment, to be a picture of how you do great discernment and critical review for others. How do you provide feedback well? How do you think through problems? These are all vital for us as leaders in making sure our team show up well too. So what do I think the future looks like? I think everyone here can use our grounding and Agile principles alongside the use of these tools to increase the creativity and to improve satisfaction, not just of our team members, but also of our customers. It's going to take time. It's a journey like it has been for the last 25 years, but it's going to only get better. Those are my beliefs. So my call to you, look for one thing. If you aren't already, look for one thing that you can do to improve your productivity in this way. Have an experiment. Do a little bit of refinement with one of the tools. Talk to your team about what it might look like to go in these ways. And run the experiments. It's what agility's always been about. Observe, record, react. I've never been good at acronyms. UDA. What's UDA? OODA-loos. You guys know OODA-loos. Thank you very much for being a part of this today. This is my LinkedIn. I would love it if you connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have questions or thoughts afterwards and want to talk more about all these, reach out and email me. I would love to have more conversations and catch up deeper. Does anybody have any thoughts now, though? I don't know how we're doing on time. I just don't. Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Jake, do you see AI helping us tackle the problem that will occur with all these vibe coders around me, where you have a 2 a.m. crisis on a Saturday morning that we need to resolve, or is it something that's still going to be left to humans?
Maybe. I think humans still have to be a big part of it. Critical debugging skills is one thing I didn't mention on my
Right.
developer
That's
skill
what I mean.
set,
Yeah.
but debugging skills are going to continue to be critical.
Okay.
Someone who can really think through the problem
Yeah.
and understand why,
Mhm.
or creatively think about the what ifs, that's always going to be our realm. Always.
Okay.
Now, they have helped me, honestly, because those few times I forgot to add a bunch of debugging statements, I'm like, no, just fix a problem. And it's like, okay, I fixed it. I'm like, no, you didn't fix the problem. I fixed it. No, you didn't. It finally reminded me, like, hey, maybe we should add a bunch of debug statements. Maybe we should put some more logging in here to help us observe what's going on and what's wrong. And then we should solve the problem. Ah, you're right. And we did. And it worked. So I think it will continue to enable us to do better. Absolutely.
Yeah, that experience, I have been seeing the AI tooling doing that even without requiring the conversation. I'm watching it do its work and it's trying things and it's not, like it's trying to make a test pass and it's not passing. So it decides to write some logs, run the test, read the output and go like, oh, I see what the problem is. Let me try a different approach. It tries it, it passes the test, it removes the console logs.
Mm.
I'm like, well, that's
impressive.
yeah.
I shared your video from the last one with a lot of people. So
Thank you.
That was really
I
good.
hope that was helpful. Thank you.
So Jack, since now AI is no longer a buzzword, right? But I still see that clients still hesitating to adopt AI, and the major concern is data security, right? Because they think that using the existing GPT model, when they start, giving AI tools to the team, their security may compromise, especially the banks, right? So
Yeah.
although AI is there, they know, but still there is a hesitance. So
I get that.
in your experience and you are dealing with many clients, how do you tackle that and what's your recommendation?
I think there's a few things. One, if you're not going to pay for the tools for your team, they're more likely to go get the tools for themselves and use the free ones that will train on your data.
Mm.
There are a number of these products now, including Microsoft, that guarantee the security, that they are not training based off of the inputs that come into it. And will defend you in lawsuits should these things develop. The other side of it too is do sandbox some of it. Don't feed personal information. Don't feed health records into it. Just like you wouldn't do those in your development sandboxes, right? You sanitize that. You make sure it's not real. Don't feed it the things it doesn't need to know. And lastly, I guess, if you're working on something that is truly proprietary, something that is truly unique, maybe be extra cautious, but so many of the problems that AI is solving for me are not in that realm. It's solving I gotta create another presenter, another model class, and another controller behind that. And it's not about the actual interesting pieces. I get to still own the interesting pieces. Does that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Especially as you said, the Copilot, right? Copilot, almost every company is allowing now, right?
Mhm.
Because it's a part of Microsoft product.
Yeah.
And using Copilot in your workflow, definitely you are having AI to get trained on your data, right? But I like your word that sanitize whatever we put,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, don't just copy paste, just sanitize. Take out all the information just on the keyword which will help you without compromising security.
Yeah. Again, I would urge companies to take control of that narrative. Again, I was just talking with somebody, it's a horrible story, a horrible story, because employee left their laptop there, they opened up their laptop and there was a free ChatGPT account that they had fed hundreds of medical records to.
Oh.
The free one. All right.
Well, what is one to do that kind of information?
Now, this is a person that did something they absolutely shouldn't have. I, as a business leader, say, let's give our teams the tools to enable them to be better, rather than have them seek out bad tools on their own. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I don't know if I got your name earlier.
Oh, Ben.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
But yeah, we just had a discussion on this today.
Yeah?
And I think you gotta build it in with cyber and AI, they're married, they intertwine, so you always gotta think about the security
Oh,
of
yeah.
using AI. Because I think you can get comfortable, and when you start building out agents to really be effective, they gotta know a lot of context, so you're giving out the secrets.
Mhm.
Some of them, not all of them, some of them, these agents can get careless. So you really have to be thinking from, at all points, how can I add in security? How can I protect my company information? And just think about it as part of that whole design process.
I agree.
But it's always gonna be a challenge, because people are always the weak link.
We are the amazing link and the weak one at the same time, aren't we?
Give the,
No, I totally agree. That makes a lot of sense.
give the foundation model, all the models you use, internal to your private cloud. Doesn't that help reduce that risk?
It can. There's other things too, though, where you I believe some of what you're speaking toward is building true agentic systems that can act on your behalf.
Right.
Some of the new things with ChatGPT, where it can go browse the web, actually order your coffee for you and bring it back to you.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of that control.
Yes.
I would not, so there are strict guardrails. If you're building an actual agentic system, I would definitely focus on those. Hey, no. You only get to do these 3 things. These are the things important to this job. There's also strict guardrails on how you can respond to customers in those agentic agents, right? We've all heard the stories about the chat bots on support that gave away free flights to people that it shouldn't have, and things like that. You have to build in a lot more safeguards when you open up those things to the world. But when it comes to your development teams and the focus of enabling your teams to do more, I think we get to help provide a lot of that context too.
Yeah.
We get to help them to get there.
And then there's different levels, because you can take care of everything on your side, but when you use the vendor tools, then that's where you have to have policies. The vendors typically, they're using these APIs that are calling out, so they might take your data and give it out. You think you've done everything.
Yeah.
So again, it gets to be challenging, but you just have to think about it from the beginning as you go through the process.
I do think it's going to make us all elevate our game in
Yes.
all of those ways. Vendor leak was also something we had to look out for. If your vendor accepted information through an API from you, and they didn't secure it well, and it impacted you, that was still a big problem. It can be greatly magnified these days. So we got used to vetting our vendors very well, making sure that the legal agreements were in there, all of the pieces of how we make sure that we're protected when working with those third parties. We're going to have to elevate that part of it too. Thank you. Those are some good thoughts.
So you did mention, and I know in the space we talked about product owner, agile team members, business analysts, what have you. You mentioned about defining clear requirements and how AI helps with that, and of course the whole heartbeat behind this talk is that AI won't take your job. However, tell that to some organizations or some teams that are trying to be lean, and they're trying to say, well, hey, what do we need? What's the market doing? kind of just go in like ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever,
Hmm.
and they let that, basically AI becomes like a new member of the team, and that member of the team is kind of serving in the pseudo BA role, the pseudo product owner role,
Mhm.
and they're kind of rolling with that, right? Whereas they may have actual developers, right, they're doing the work, but they say, well, you know, we do need to do this, we need to get an idea, and they kind of refine with AI. So, in my role as a BA product owner, I've been kind of facing it head on, knowing that it's coming, and really working on other skills, like we're talking about today. So, like beautifully said, everything was said today. But what about organizations that don't see it that way? There are organizations that see it as, we don't need a BA, we need a BO, we don't need whoever, a delivery manager, just go AI and devs, do your best, right? So
I wish I had a good answer for you on that, but
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be organizations that miss the point. And part of our job, if we love the organization, is to help help educate them, help to show that with this, instead of replaced by this, we are all more powerful. And then ultimately, I think those that choose the replaced by without the people involved are likely going to be in that same boat of those leaders that 2 years ago were like, we don't need junior developers anymore. And a lot of those guys are starting to realize, no, that wasn't quite it. We can accomplish so much more with so much less. Why are we getting rid of? Why aren't we just growing, doing better? So I wish I had a good answer. I don't have a great answer for that. But I do think showing the value of utilizing it with, and showing your unique set of skills with and experiences that you've grown over this lifetime is a big part of it.
So do you feel like AI, and this is sort of a general question, do you feel like AI, how to use AI effectively, how to utilize it to its fullest is bubbling up from the bottom, or do you think it's trickling down from the top?
I haven't really thought of it that way. That's very interesting to me. I do think a lot of it's bubbling up from the bottom, from my personal experience at least, right? I do know I've seen a lot of those people that are like, no, I'm just going to like you said, the people that with some good intention but still misguided. Oh, I'll just get a tool myself. This will make me better. And because my company's moving too slow, they're not making this right. Now the other side of it too, I've seen those headlines of the CEOs like, no, we're going AI first from here out. And those can often be misguided too, because they don't really understand how it's solving a problem.
Right.
So I think it comes from both directions. I think it can be misguided in both directions. And the education and enablement of it, making sure we're doing it well, that's what we got to focus on.
And you think it's more business, or do you think it's more IT? Business pushing IT to utilize AI to make things better, or you think it's IT pushing the business to utilize?
So I think that's going to depend very heavily on the if you meant by IT you mean development groups. I think it depends on the development groups and their motivations. I believe strongly that development groups want to do the best work they can possibly do. I believe everyone who chose that path wants to do that. And so they're seeking these tools to do it better. When it comes to the other side of it, the business pushing it to the teams, it's more often the answer of, oh, we need some AI in our world. Everybody else is doing AI, and we need it too. And I'm not sure that's a good approach. No, I think we can do it well. We can find ways that utilizing these tools that improves our employees' satisfaction and value, and improves the value and satisfaction of our customers. But just saying you're going to do it is just like we said, I have a friend who used to always say, oh, we'll just rub a little DevOps on it, and it'll make all our problems go away. We just rub a little AI on it, and it'll make it all shiny and pretty. It's not the answer.
What?
It has to be smart.
One thing I'd like to add is, you know how they say perception is reality? You see all these talking heads and they talk about how great AI is. And a lot of people, they don't know what they don't know. But if you've been doing this, you've been in technology for 25, 30 years like myself, I know what you don't know. The challenge is making people understand that there is a lot of things that AI can't do and AI can do. And you gotta continuously educate people on what a good use case and what not. Because if you don't know that space, if you don't know just all that years of experience I tell developers, all those years of understanding data, because it's all driven by data and understanding governance and all that stuff, that directly applies. But you gotta constantly keep preaching, because people seem to get out, oh no, we can do all that, look at the guarantee. Yeah, you're not getting rid of all programs, not anytime soon.
And to support that, I think different industry segments have different abilities. So there's some industry segments that are the business is very slow to understand development methodologies and technologies. And then there are some business segments that's their job, and so they understand it well.
I think one problem we have is some of the current scenarios remind me of the dot-com era, and I feel we're gonna have a dot-com bubble where everything bursts, and Wall Street says, you spend all these billions on data centers and this and that, I don't see any profit, and then everything goes down, and then it sorts itself out. But then you have those CEOs that you just mentioned who, we're doing AI because everybody else is doing it, instead of what's the problem you need to solve. So we're gonna go through all those phases. There's no way we're gonna escape that. We're gonna go through all that again.
Yesterday, on similar line, I had a conversation with my VP, and I was showing the co-pilot for Azure DevOps, right? Co-pilot for DevOps. I was showing the demo. So after demo, he was very happy, and he asked me, so we need less people. First question. Yeah. His question was, we need less people. I said no. He said then how do you do it? And I told him, see, now with this AI, you can reduce your product development time. Whatever we were developing in 6 sprints, now you can compress to 3 sprints. Your time to market will be faster, right? So you still need people.
Yeah.
You still need all people, whatever
And
they are.
then you still need that product owner
Yes.
to make sure we're not turning it into a feature
Yeah.
factory.
Exactly.
Chasing every little thing.
Yeah. But it can fasten your cycle, right? And somebody says that AI may delete some jobs, but AI may create jobs which we cannot pronounce even now.
Right.
We cannot pronounce now, but it may create those jobs, and we all move to those jobs, right?
And I loved what you talked about trade-offs. And I think everyone, that's part of that upskilling you're talking about, is understand how to talk about making decisions. And that's been going on since the 50s. You can look up decision analysis and you can get lots of ways to talk to people about, oh, you have 3 buckets. Do you want it fast? Do you want it high quality? Do you want it expensive? And put, you can just learn how to talk to people about decisions, because you're right. You're going to be sitting in front of them,
Yes.
and they're going to go, I'm going to decide to cut half the stack, right? And
Yes.
so,
All right. Let's give a round of applause to Jack.
Please connect with me, and if you haven't filled out, I'm going to reach out to you and ask for feedback as well. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a token of gratitude.
thank you very much.
Thank you.